The Wasp Woman is one of those films where I just cannot make up my mind how I feel about this film, because when it was good, I really enjoyed it. But for the duration of it, it's not very long. It's over an hour, but not massively so. And I feel like maybe 10 minutes of it was good, and that sounds like it should be a bad film. But the rest of it wasn't bad. It just was. It was almost nothing. Not a lot happened. They could have easily cut out. Maybe kept the first 10 minutes of the film and then cut out the rest up until maybe the last 15 minutes or so, and you wouldn't have missed anything. You would have completely been able to follow it. The narrative would have made perfect sense. There's a lot of filler and a lot of padding. They either needed to develop it a bit better or just have made it a short film. So I didn't love it, but it didn't completely disappoint, because the bits that I wanted to work well, i.e., the Wasp Woman herself, did. And I think it explained things very well. It was very easy to follow, maybe because we had a lot of downtime when we were able to process things without, too much action on screen. So I'll get into what it's actually about in a moment, but basically, I think I recommend it, but don't expect anything sensational. But it may interest you at certain points. This was released in 1959. It's directed by Roger Corman, written by Leo Gordon, based on a story by Kinta Zertuche, and it stars Susan Cabot as Janice Starlin. And I'll read the description from IMDb, which sums it up really well without giving anything away. This, I thought, definitely sounded intriguing. The head of a major cosmetics company experiments on herself with a youth formula made from royal jelly extracted from wasps, but the formula's side effects have deadly consequences. So it starts off around wasp hives, and we get a close up of these wasps, and as somebody who is scared of wasps, I found that terrifying. I thought that was a brilliant way to start the horror film, because obviously, if you are scared of wasps, that's pretty scary. And then cut to this cosmetics company, and we spend about 40 minutes just listening to the people talk, including Janice Starlin. What they're talking about isn't that interesting. Occasionally, something potentially more exciting will happen, but it never really develops into fruition, or at least not to the extent where it, changes the mood or anything. It's basically flat. And then Janice Starlin, as it says, she does use this youth formula, and it works. And she's meant to look 20 years younger or something, but there are wasp-themed side effects. And I won't explain too much about that, but I will just say visually she looks different. And I do think the makeup transformation was incredible. We don't get to see much of it, but I think she looked brilliant. And that's the bit that I hoped would have been done well, and it was. The transformation scenes were very effective. Obviously, we're not talking about the level of special effects that we get today, but I think they handled it very well. The way they presented it was very convincing in the realms of the narrative. And those were the bits, as I said, that I hoped would be would be done well, and they were. So for me, that definitely worked. But the narrative itself was very two-dimensional almost. There was just nothing going on. It basically took an hour for a woman to use this formula and then to have this side effect. And not much happens. There are obviously a few things here and there. It's not completely void of progression, but nothing ever turns out to be that interesting. So I was a little bit, well, probably a lot let down by the narrative itself, but visually I thought it worked very well. The acting's very good. It's very well shot. Visually, I have no complaints at all. It's just a shame that really it's basically a whole lot of nothing with about 5-10 minutes of interesting. It's one of those ones where I'm pleased I watched it from the comfort of my own home. If I'd watched it in the cinema, it would have been difficult to, maintain my attention for that long. It's worth watching if you are a fan of horror, particularly 50s horror or, classic horror, because it's just fascinating. And obviously, seeing how they did this transformation, I thought was very interesting. So it's not completely dull, but by no means would I say that this is a good film. It's worth watching if it appeals to you, but I wouldn't say put it to the top of your watch list.